District of Conservation is sponsored by CFACT. To learn more about our sponsor, head over to cfact.org. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome to District of Conservation. I'm your host, Gabriella Hoffman. This podcast offers a sober examination into all things hunting, fishing, shooting sports, energy, environment, and the public policy surrounding it. And this podcast also specializes in original interviews that you won't hear elsewhere. Here's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. This week is going to be a little light on content because I have several speaking engagements this week. It is Earth Week, Earth Day, so I want to preview some of my upcoming speeches that I have this week and my final one of the spring semester happening in Wisconsin. So today will just be a debrief on some speaking events that I've had this week already, and a preview of some speeches I have tomorrow and this weekend, in addition to the final one in Wisconsin. So here is what you need to know if you're interested in hearing me speak these upcoming next few weeks. The Arlington Falls Church Young Republicans meeting that was titled Energy, Environment, and Conservation. It was a panel that I did alongside two other panelists, other young conservatives who have focused on the energy space nationally and also in Virginia. And I was able to deliver what I often deliver in my conservationist conservative talks. We talked about Virginia energy policy, federal energy policy, who true conservationists are. We had a lot of agreement, and there was even some areas where we had disagreements, but I have posted photos of the engagement on social media. So if you're interested to see how that went, you can check out my kind of overview of it online. It was pretty well attended, maybe like 25, 30 people in attendance for a Monday night event in a city. Not too bad because people are somewhat of homebodies. This area is super busy. But this Young Republican chapter turned out for the event, and Victoria, who is the chairman of this group, did a fantastic job organizing, advertising, and getting the word out there. So thank you, Victoria, for having us, myself and the co-panelists. Now, what are some upcoming speaking engagements you guys can catch me at? I have several across the country. I have one more here in Virginia. Tomorrow night, I'm returning to George Mason University in Fairfax. It's about 30 some odd minutes inland of Washington, D.C. I'm going to be speaking on the future of environmentalism. I gave a similar talk, I think, at one of the campuses earlier this semester. Maybe I spoke about this, and we'll kind of rehash what I talked about at Texas A&M. But I'm going to talk about in a follow-up conversation with them because they got my conservationist conservative. And this year they're going to get a follow-up on what is currently playing out federally, what's happening in Virginia maybe. We'll go into that. I'll also talk about ESG, the CCP buying agricultural land, and some other kind of current events that I think they should be aware of. So I'm very excited to follow up with George Mason. Again, the appearance can be seen if you want to come in person at the Hub VIP room, number 3, 7:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, April 19th, right before Earth Day. Great, appropriate time to do that. So I'm looking forward to visiting Sammy Yang's group again in my return to George Mason. You have seen me advertise at length my upcoming participation happening this Saturday, April 22nd, which is actually Earth Day, believe it or not, at the Kansas State Rifle Association annual meeting in Lenexa, Kansas. That is on the outskirts of Kansas City, Missouri. I haven't been to that portion of the state nor to Missouri, so I get to check that off, which is great. I have been to Kansas before for POMA in our Wichita Business Conference. That was a great experience, very life-changing because I became an award-winning outdoor writer then. But now I get to come hit another milestone with delivering my first ever keynote. And my speech largely will touch upon, obviously, my personal story, why I grew interested in firearms, covering this beat. I'll plug in the podcast. I'll talk about the connection conservation does have to the Second Amendment through excise taxes. You guys hear me talk about Pittman Robertson all the time. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to kind of survey the landscape as to what is happening federally, maybe in Kansas and states and the movements, concealed carry, things of that sort, assessing trends, and then kind of offer some positivity, look at things half full, and call to actions. I think that's the best thing you can do instead of sulking and being upset. I think even in the midst of all these gun control proposals, we see people responding by purchasing firearms en masse. It is incredible how much people do not respond positively to gun control proposals, whether it is through Congress or executive orders and regulatory fiat. People just realize, especially with the rise in crime, you are your own best defender. So you see different demographics, younger people, older people, people of different socioeconomic statuses. Everyone, if they're able to, and they are willing to train, is looking to purchase firearms. They're purchasing handguns. They're purchasing the oft-maligned AR-15 Armalite rifles, not assault weapons, as many people say they are. So we're going to assess trends electorally, culturally with guns, and I want to give them, obviously, call to action. So that's what I hope to accomplish. I have no idea if my speech will be filmed, but April 22nd, this upcoming Saturday, is how you can catch my speech. I hope you are in attendance. I am excited to catch up with some long-lost friends, meet some new people. It's a really great group. One of the organizers is a longtime friend of mine, and I was really honored that he reached out to me and suggested that I keynote the annual meeting there. So very excited to head to Kansas this upcoming weekend, and I hope to catch you there if you are in the Kansas City area. And the final speech I have as it relates to conservation for this semester, and I'm thinking in terms of semester to kind of go along with colleges, because I'm largely speaking to colleges. I'm going to be at the University of Wisconsin River Falls. It's about 35 minutes, I think, to the east of Twin Cities, Minnesota. So I get to check off visiting Minnesota in Wisconsin as well. That will be on May 4th, so May the 4th. The University Center, Kinnick, River Theater Room 320. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I have a social media link. There's a graphic, accompanying graphic, that details my speech. The speech will start at 7 p.m. Central Time. For those of you in the area who are interested, I have several friends in the local area who said, "Can I please come?" I was like, "Yes, absolutely. It's open to the public." So let's give this student group, this Turning Point USA group, big attendance if we can. I have been told that maybe up to 100 people could attend, but if 50 people come or any amount of number of people come, I'd be very happy regardless of the amount. I love interacting with people, going into the flyover states, these often underappreciated states, and coming down to earth and realizing that no matter what happens in Washington, there are still wonderful people across this country, people who want to hear about conservation, and I'm humbled that I'm afforded this opportunity to speak to different audiences, to share about true conservation, to opine on these issues and why they matter. I'm very excited to talk about farming more so, and some of the threats that are prevailing and concerning to me as someone who has interviewed a lot of ranchers and farmers and really values their contributions to making land better, helping with water quality, things of that sort. So we can't dismiss farmers and ranchers. I think that's a big mistake. So that's what my talk will largely encompass when we go there. But several places you can catch me at. I have another speaking gig coming up in the summer. I can't say where yet because I'm waiting on details about what I'm actually speaking on. It either is Second Amendment again, or it's going to be maybe on environmentalism. I would love to speak about environmentalism, but I spoke at this conference before. I'm going to wait for details. But as a clue, if you guys want a clue, mid-July at this conference. Before I conclude today's episode, here's a quick programming note. If you are interested in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, I'm not telling you guys anything, but if you're interested in these topics, you've heard that these digital coins are very toxic to the environment. The Bitcoin mining process is horrible for the planet. The emissions that it produces are terrible. I have a special guest in Dennis Porter of the Satoshi Action Fund coming on this Monday to discuss everything you want to know about cryptocurrency, CBDCs, the environmental footprint of digital coin, everything you want to know about public policy and the viability of crypto going forward, because it does have some relation to conservation, of course. Dennis is phenomenal. We had a great conversation, and I can't wait to publish his episode here with you all on Monday. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Make sure you're connected to us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also on your preferred player, we recommend Apple Podcasts, where you can leave us reviews if you really like the content. Share the podcast with friends who may be interested in learning more about what's trending in conservation and the related industries that entangle with it and sometimes work against it as well. Thanks for listening to the show, and stay tuned for the next episode.